Hello everyone, welcome to a racing strategy guide of the special event that is the 30 laps of Fuji International Speedway in the Toyota GR010. This is an exact replica of the World Finals Toyota Gazoo Racing Cup event. It was available to race immediately after the event finished on the 24th. There was 3 slots, but I don't think too many people were aware of them. There is going to be a rerun of the event on the 29th of November and also the 2nd of December. It's going to be 5 slots, so if you never managed to race it on the 24th, you'll be able to jump in and do the race here. Just be aware that if you do one slot and you finish the race, you will not be able to enter the slot immediately after because the event runs on for too long. So here's the settings for it. It's 30 laps to get round, 16 cars. It's a 10-minute qualifying session with fuel and tyre wear turned off. In the race, you're going to have fuel at times 2, tyre wear at times 4. You're going to have all the tyres available in the racing category, and you must run at least 1 lap on the hard, medium and the softs. There won't be any weather in this one because of that tyre requirement. There will not be any weather, I'm 99.9% sure. Even though the tyres are available. It certainly wasn't the case when we ran the event on the 24th. And the car available is going to be the Toyota GR010 Hybrid 21 Hypercar. So yeah, that's the settings for this one. Let's move on to take a look at some of the elements of the race. The first thing I want to talk about is the car itself. You may well not have driven this one particularly much, but it is the kind of replacement for the modern LMP1 cars out there now. You know, going to be hypercars. They are actually slower, believe it or not. And a couple of things I want you to kind of take note about this car before you go in. There is a hybrid on the car, but you know, will require no management whatsoever. It kind of looks after itself. The car does feel very heavy and understeery for a car, you know, that's meant to be at the cutting edge of technology. It actually feels slower than a Group 2 car. Feels like it's got less handling than a Group 2 car as well, and it is pretty leery on the throttle coming out of slow corners. You will need to use first gear quite often around Fuji. There's a lot of off-camber corners, so your throttle management is going to be put to the test here. But yeah, that's the car we're going to be driving. It's a nice car, 3 million credits I do believe, so go and spend some of those hard-earned credits on this car. It's worth having in your garage, and you don't want to be turning up on the day with a standard livery. We all know that a standard livery car loses at least 2 temps per lap. But that's the car for the event. Let's move on to take a look at each individual element. I'll give you my experiences of doing the race on the 24th, and the first thing you're going to notice when you go into the race after qualifying is that we have a much closer rolling start than normal. Now, I did say when I was live streaming this race, I said there's no way they're going to give us the same rolling start as they had in the actual World Finals. And I was wrong. It is exactly the same rolling start. The cars are literally on each other's bumpers going down into turn 1, and obviously that then creates a huge amount of potential for chaos. So be sensible. Hope everybody else around you is going to be sensible, and remember, this is a very long race. It's about 45 minutes worth of racing. You do not want to get spun round at the beginning, so yeah, be sensible, be cautious, and try not to be like the driver just in front of us there, whose race is over 30 seconds into it. Moving on to the elements of the race you're going to have to take note of. You have to run all 3 of the tyre compounds, soft, medium and hard tyres. We started this race on the medium tyres. To be honest, this was probably a mistake. We started in P11 and ended up at P13 after the first corner, so we did find ourselves held up by some of the hard tyre runners in front of us. I think from the position we started in, we should have started on the hard tyres. But the medium tyres, the one thing I do want to stress about the medium tyres is you want to run these tyres for as long as possible. Now, depending on your driving style, that's going to be between 11 to 14 laps. But yeah, I would run these tyres all the way down until there is just a sliver of white left, because the longer you can run these tyres, the more you can minimise how many laps you're going to spend on the hard tyres. We're going to pit here at the end of lap 12. The reason we did that was because the driver behind us was much quicker and catches on a softer compound of tyre, or a better condition of tyre, so I didn't want to lose time getting overtaken by them, so we decided to pit. And yeah, this will give us a chance to look at the pit loss and fuel. And I would stress, practice the pit entry. We've hit the wall twice. Both times we entered the pits, we hit the wall. I don't think it really cost us any time, and the penalties are off for hitting the wall anyway, but I think you'd be better served doing a few practice entries into the pits so you're not making that mistake. So we're going to put the hard tyres on next, and We're not going to have to worry about fuel on this one. It is pretty marginal towards the end, so it's probably worth just maybe flicking through it at some point and taking a look, but you shouldn't need to refuel in this race. A pit stop is going to cost you around about 25 seconds all in, so from, you know, you basically lose 25 seconds on the track, so a fairly substantial loss just to change those tyres. As we said, fuel shouldn't be any issue whatsoever. The tyres will feel, particularly the hard tyres when you come out on them, they will feel like you're driving on 4 blocks of stone. They're absolutely frozen cold by the feels of it, and you have very little grip for the first lap. In terms of performance, the hard tyres are about 2 seconds, maybe 2.4 seconds slower than the soft tyres, and about 1.2 seconds slower than the medium tyres. So you do want to minimise the amount of laps you do spend on them, but you will have to do, at a bare minimum, I guess, 7 laps. I think more likely you're looking at 8 to 9 laps on the hard tyres, but if you're a bit of a twinkle toes, then you can maybe get away with doing 14 laps on the mediums, 7 laps on the hard tyres, and then 9 laps on the soft tyres. But yeah, you're going to have to spend a bit of time on these tyres, and they are pretty slow and painful. They do come alive after a few laps, a bit more. They do initially feel very slow, but they will slowly come in, and you'll start being able to set in some reasonable lap times. But regardless, the hard tyres are never really any quicker than your medium tyres at any point. Even very worn medium tyres can sort of match fresh hard tyres. Again, just be careful on the pit entry and also on the pit exit. You do have the white lines, you have to be wary of them. We've seen World Tour drivers getting caught out by the... It's a very silly mistake to make, so do be very careful to respect the white lines when you are coming into the pits and also exiting the pits. I'd also suggest take a quick look behind you as you're exiting as well, just so you know what cars are approaching down into turn 1. Moving on to the soft tyres. Now again, depending on your driving style and you know how good you are at looking after tyres, the longevity you're going to get out of them is going to differ quite dramatically. 7 to 10 laps I reckon. We tried to do the 10 laps, but as you're about to see as we come onto the main straight here with 8 laps still remaining, we have completely ran out of tyres. Now the driver up in P2, the Spanish driver, pitted at the same time as me, and they did manage to make the soft tyres last for the 10 laps, so it is entirely possible. We're normally quite good on tyres, so I thought we could maybe do 10 laps as well, but 9 laps was around about our limit. At the beginning of the race we actually seen drivers pitting after 7 laps on the soft tyres, so if you're particularly tough on the tyres, you're probably looking at 7 laps on the soft tyres maximum. If you do what I've done here and basically misjudge the tyres and you're going to finish the race on the soft tyres, I guess any tyres as well, don't worry about it too much. The car is still completely drivable even when you've completely ran the tyres all the way down to the red. No tread on them whatsoever. You know, you are going to be losing time. You know, I think it's maybe about 3 to 4 seconds a lap you might lose. But at this stage of the race, as lap 30, the race will be... It's very likely to be quite spread out. We've got the Italian 8 seconds behind us, so we're not really under any threat from getting overtaken by that driver, despite the fact we're going about 4 seconds a lap slower. The car is drivable. It's not like you have to kind of drive it in any particular way. The best way to describe it is it feels like you're maybe on like a set of intermediates in the dry track. That's kind of the sort of level of grip that you've got once you completely blow the tyres there. I think we've now done both the front tyres all the way down to the red. Had we had maybe some brake balance PD, I could have maybe kind of used some of that rear tyre life that I've still got left, you know. So hopefully that's something that's maybe going to come into the game in the future. But here we are, going to finish this one in P5. We were P13 after the first lap, so a P5 finish was not too bad at all, but we get absolutely blown away by the guy up in P1, Bila. I think that 44-47 would probably have served him quite well in the actual real World Tour final. Absolutely blew everybody else on the grid away. So we've looked at all the elements to the race, the roll and start, you know, be careful at the beginning, how the tyres last and perform compared to each other, the pit loss, and the fact that we don't have to take any fuel on. You're probably asking, well, what is the best way to run this race? Now, I can't give you the exact answer for that because it's going to depend on, you know, where you start and basically how your race unfolds. The aim of any strategy in any race is to basically be able to run your race as unimpeded by other drivers as possible. So If you qualify in P1 or P2, I would definitely be starting on the soft tyres. Use the advantage of the fact you've got no cars in front of you, put in the lap times, let the race spread out, and then decide whether you're going to go into the hards or the mediums after that. That would be the best way to run it from the front. If you're in the mid-pack, I guess you have the choice of starting on the mediums or the hards. We started on the mediums. It didn't work out too bad for us, but we definitely found ourselves behind some hard tyre runners on a couple of occasions during the race. I think we've probably been better served starting on the hard tyres, so I think, you know, I would probably be looking for most drivers on the grid kind of below P3, P4 to be starting on the hard tyres. Get them out the way. You're going to have to do a minimum of 7 laps, but to be on the safe side and just to give yourself a wee bit of a safety net, maybe 8 or 9 laps would be better. Run the medium tyres for as long as you possibly can if you use them in either the first stint or the second stint, because they will minimise how long you have to use the hard tyres, and they will be quicker than the hard tyres right up until you run them down to 0, or pretty much until you run them down to 0. But yeah, that's all the individual elements to the race. Hopefully that will be useful for you to formulate your strategy or to kind of understand what's going on in the race around you. And all that is left to do is to do a lap of Fuji International Speedway in the Toyota GR010 and give you my braking points references and where to be wary on this track. So come down at turn 1, I use the 150 metre board. This car has 7 gears, you'll have to go all the way down into first gear. Be very careful on the throttle, doesn't like being kind of mashed too much in first and second gear. 100 metre board into the fast left-hander. You have to take this corner slower than you might expect, and that is also the case for 100R. Pretty sensible lift even required on the soft tyres to make sure you get the car around the corner. There's an orange bollard on the wall on the right hand side. Down into second gear, be careful on the throttle exiting this one, it's a bit off camber, and as we come up towards the chicane you're going to be in 6th gear. You're going to be using the Dunlop sign as ever, and you're going to go all the way down into first gear. Take lots of care up here. I do a quick upshift into second just so I can be a bit more aggressive on the throttle as we exit the chicane, and now we come into the tricky third sector. Second gear for most of these corners. Some people may use first gear to get the car rotated, but yeah, it's just a case of threading it through these tricky corners. Be careful on the throttle because they're all kind of, you know, particularly this one here, you come over the crest of a hill. Orange barrier on the inside as usual, your braking reference for the last corner. Again, you're coming from an uphill section onto a flat piece of track, so if you're too aggressive on the throttle, the car goes light and you will spin round. Be careful of the AstroTurf on the outside of many of the corners on this track as well, as if you put a wheel on there, hit the throttle too vigorously, you are going to be doing spinneroonies. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this one. Kudos to PD for finally giving us a long race in Gran Turismo 7. A 45-minute sport mode race I think is definitely the longest one that I can remember since I started playing GT Sport and GT7, so very nice to see. And yeah, the strategy in there as well. Haven't used all the tyres. Fantastic idea from PD to replicate the World Tour finals for us mere mortals out there, just to see how we fare compared to the aliens. But hopefully this guide has been useful in some way, shape or form to help guide you through this long strategic race. If it has, please hit that like button, please hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much for watching. I shall catch you on the next one. Goodbye now.